So this is a short session on the value of small in a big crisis, which is a report that's been done by the Lloyds Foundation. My name's Karen. I work for Impact in Action as the Impact Officer, and I work underneath BVSC, Bexley Voluntary Services Council. My work is kindly funded by the City of London Corporation's charity, City Bridge Trust. And I thought it'd be helpful to try and condense down about 1.5 hours webinar, a large report and a summary report into 10 minutes, just to give you a flavour of whether you want to look into this a bit further, whether you think it's helpful to hear what funders are hearing, so that you can be speaking the same language and you can be referencing the same documents that they're hearing about, they're thinking about. And the report builds on some work that was done previously in 2018 called Value of Small, and you can pause there to see some of what that report said. So to get to the meat of the executive summary, finding number 1, here's a quote: "Smaller charities have demonstrated tremendous energy, flexibility and professionalism. They have showed up and then stuck around." And I thought that that was quite a useful quote potentially as to the assets, as to the benefits that small charities bring. Finding number 2, small charities found ways to contact people, especially those who were less well served by mainstream provision. They were trusted. And so if you're a small group, hopefully that's you. Hopefully you were able to find ways around. And if you weren't able to find ways around, then it may be that some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about later about the support that BVSC can offer may be helpful. Finding number 3, small charities have added value for individuals, communities, the economy, and all at minimal cost to the public purse. So when trying to argue our point, potentially with different agencies, this may be helpful for you to be able to say this isn't just our experience, but here's some research that shows that there's a wider body of evidence for this. And then the conclusion of one of the conclusions of the executive summary: the real value of smaller charities during the COVID-19 pandemic has been the fact that they continue to be there for the people and communities that need them most. So again, something if you're asked about your assets, asked about why is there a need for small charities? So a little bit of detail. Here's a bit about what the report said about the distinctive approach, and that there is a gap in provision if you're only talking about the public sector or mutual aid groups. And it was said by one of the speakers that in some circles it might be seen that mutual aid groups were the only innovators, but actually that there was a lot of innovation going on amongst small charities, and that they were meeting something that neither of these two groups alone could meet, because they had the more personal side of things in terms of the public sector, and then looking at the mutual aid side of things, a lot of them have dissipated over time, so they've got the longer term presence. So this is a national report, and we need to think about how this fits with Bexley. Then distinctive position, talking about how our small charities are trusted conduits for information, and that's really relevant, isn't it, when we're trying to get out messages about the hesitancy for some around having the jabs. The report also talked about social value, talked about the importance of mitigating future problems, so reducing the chances of future problems because small groups have worked early on or earlier on than other groups to avoid problems of loneliness turning into future more difficult mental health issues. Social value around being flexible and proactive, the low cost of small groups, and added value. The report also highlighted some challenges for smaller charities, and this might be something that you could mention in the needs part of any application. Talked about the increased user needs, but that those users may have difficulty in accessing help, exclusion, for example. Financial and human resources, you know, for a lot of small groups, any reserves will have been depleted, and people have been running and running, and it's actually been a longer term thing that, you know, for small group leaders, it mentions later, there is the risk of burnout. I would suggest also for other staff members too. Relationships and networks, adapting to non-face-to-face, and the need as well, a challenge to have coordination to prevent duplication. So the report had a number of recommendations. You can check these out for yourself on page 47 of the 63-page report. But something that was mentioned in the webinar that I thought was useful was that the speaker said that the future of the local authorities and the future of small charities is inextricably linked. So if there are losses or cutbacks in one area, it's going to have an effect in another area. So food for thought. In the webinar, and you can see where in the webinar 29 to 41 minutes at the bottom it says, there was also a piece from the Baroness Diana Barron, Parliamentary Minister for Civil Society, and she began by talking about, and this is a quote, "Government doesn't need convincing about the value of small charities." Well, that's a useful quote to have, isn't it? She spoke about the amount, the 750 million that the government had given to the lottery to distribute, which ends in March 2021. She said that those recommendations that we looked at just now, she saw them as interlocking, which makes sense. And then January 2021, she talked about there being out new rules around social value procurement to make the implementation of the Social Value Act more realistic. So areas for us to be looking at. She talked about a green paper on procurement, which is open to consultation until towards the end of March, and the importance of having voices heard and feeding into that. And she explained that she'd been having weekly sessions with NAVCA during the crisis. So useful to know, you know, who's speaking into the ear of those in power. She was asked if there was going to be another tranche of money, especially for the small charity sector, and she said that there wouldn't be, and kind of hinted that the procurement opportunities above were more the way to go. So now looking at findings and what we could do about them, they had a range of different action points, that funders need to look more at long-term staff, that local authorities should be thinking more about social value as investing in local economies, that infrastructure groups like BVSC need to support stressed charity leaders and provide digital support, and that charities need to have their voices heard. And I just wanted to draw out what that might mean for us. You can decide for yourself, but here are just some ideas. In terms of the funders and local authorities, obviously BVSC has a partnership officer, Jacqueline, and our CEO, Vicky, who are both, you know, trying to be voices for you guys at different partnership meetings with different agencies. So, you know, feed into that. In terms of fundraising, this idea that it'd be great to have core funding for long term. You know, I've been in the fundraising world for over 20 years, and we've always wanted that. So we can't wait until we've got the perfect fund to start fundraising. You know, we want to, you know, try and go for good funds that match what we do. But I would say that, you know, don't hold your breath. And then local authorities and social value. If you're aware of some of the things that are talked about in this research, some of the things that the Baroness said, then that really adds to those conversations that you're having with different agencies to show that you know what's going on. In terms of supporting stressed charity leaders and digital support, I'll come on to a bit more of that in a second. But we do have our networks, we do have our virtual coffee meetings, there's lots of training, and for the next few months we're able to offer some digital support to groups to help people onto Zoom, to help and also on the website there's some stuff around using digital whiteboard or getting your videos onto YouTube. So get in touch if you need any support around that. Then the last part, having a voice in the green paper and so on, you can use this as your evidencing needs, and Impact in Action part of the website has a useful links page, which is helpful, plus the Lloyds Foundation has that Small Charities Data Insights website there. So just to round off in terms of really making this very practical, what things you can do as a result. I do my seven impact sessions, and any of that is going to help you to be well positioned for the future, having your theory of change in place, understanding how you're going to change and learn from what's going on. In addition to that, at the moment we've got superhighways training going on, and in the future we're going to have some stuff from the Coalition for Efficiency, which will include some training on being agile. There's digital support that we can provide to a degree, one-to-one help, and maybe just a virtual cover. So if you want to go and look at the information for yourself, the links for those are there. But in the meantime, thank you very much for your time.